Happy anniversary to Ruben Amorim. He celebrates exactly 1 year as Manchester United boss. We're going to spend our first hour looking at his impact at the club, whether he's the man to take them back to their former glories, and if they're heading in the right direction under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox. United fans, do you trust the process? 03717 223344. I thought we'd already accepted there's no loyalty in football, but Rob Edwards' potential move to Wolves has got under the skin of so many neutrals. Why? You can have your say on that. We'll also hear from Arsenal's Bukayo Saka. He joins up with the England squad, having already secured a World Cup berth. What do you want to see from Thomas Tuchel and his side in their final two qualifiers? We'll find out what Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn make of their son's second duel this weekend. A Fulham mulling over a managerial change. Former Liverpool winger Jermaine Pennant alongside me. I might ask him about the crisis at Anfield too. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. And for the next hour, we're going to look back at Ruben Amorim's first year in charge of Manchester United.
Verbally, Amorim has already agreed to this move, so it's just really a question of United agreeing to pay compensation to Sporting, and then this move will happen.
Amorim, I think you look at what he's done at Sporting, he's shown that he could turn the team around quickly.
Manchester United still with only one away win in the Premier League this season. That was at Southampton.
Manchester United, they beat Leicester well, they beat Southampton well. You know, they usually knock over promoted teams. They might struggle against some of the better teams, but they have struggled here. In towards Joe Linton, up there with a header, and it's past Onana and into the corner, and Manchester United are 2-0 behind. The honeymoon is over for Ruben Amorim.
It's a big summer for him to get players in to make a difference. It's going to take 2 or 3 windows. It's whether he's given time. If he loses enough football matches, there is no way on earth he'll keep his job.
The full-time whistle has blown. The Manchester United players sink to the ground in frustration. It's finished Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1.
We can win any game, so if we think about just winning the next game, that is the most important thing. We can win the next game.
They've obviously backed him of what he wants to do, because as I said, he's made some big calls, and it looks at the moment anyway that things are on track a little bit.
It's finished Manchester United 4, Brighton and Hove Albion 2. It was a well-deserved win for the home side.
When you're a manager, you need 3 years to turn things around. I think things are going the right way.
It's one of the biggest honors of my life to be here, and I want to continue here for many years.
Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants him to continue too. 3 years, he says he needs to prove that he is a top-class manager and to turn the club around. We're going to take your calls this hour and discuss a year of Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. By the way, I should tell you, just underway over on talkSPORT 2 tonight. Virtue Trophy footballers Stockport host Wigan. Cameron Pope and former England defender Mickey Gray are your commentary team. Plymouth Argyle already a man down away at Bristol Rovers, in need of course, some positivity under Tom Cleverley, bottom of League One at the moment. Anyway, Flex, co-host of Inside Devils YouTube channel, of course, here at talkSPORT, and former Liverpool winger Jermaine Pennant. Good evening, how are you?
Good, I'm very good.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, feeling nice. How you're okay?
No, I'm okay.
Sure?
I've been better.
Yeah, just had a look at the Premier League table, and the name of Manchester United is above the name of Liverpool there.
Ooh.
Who thought our rivalry this season would be a race for a place in Europe, full stop?
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all it is, yeah.
Listen.
Transition.
You might get
You'll
Conference
just go
League
for Europe at the same time.
A little bit of Conference League next year would be good for Liverpool.
You two get Liverpool out of your mouth. Okay, we're not in the same league. We're not fighting for... Me and you are not fighting for Champions League. We've got a Champions League.
Okay.
We're fine.
We'll talk Liverpool in the final hour. Let's start with Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. United's 2-2 draw at Spurs on Saturday means they're currently unbeaten in 5 games. That's their longest run without defeat under Amorim. 3 wins, 2 draws in that time. He was confirmed on Friday the 1st of November last year. Ruud van Nistelrooy was in interim charge, though, so Amorim's first match, a 1-1 draw at Ipswich, took place on Sunday the 24th of November. But Amorim officially took charge on Monday the 11th of November. United finished 15th under Amorim last year and, of course, lost the Europa League final 1-0 against Spurs. They were knocked out in the quarter-final of the Carabao Cup, also against Spurs. The FA Cup 5th round, they were knocked out against Fulham. This season, United have been as low as 16th and 14th twice, but they're currently 7th in the league, and they've been as high as 6th. 18 points from 11 games, 1 point off the top 4, 8 points off first place. Where are Manchester United right now? I'll start with you, Jermaine.
Manchester United for me, look, I've seen improvements, but there's nothing to, I would say, rave about at the moment. We've seen results against away at Nottingham Forest, seen results Tottenham. So yes, they've got better going forward. There's more goals in that team now with Cunha and Wemmer. I think are being great signings, but I think there's still question about their midfield and their defence. Defensively, still look vulnerable, but they're in a better place than they were. But they're still miles off it where Man United should be. This is my.
I think that's fair. To be honest with you, that's very fair. We needed stability and calm. What was happening was we were losing every single week or every other week. You can't build any confidence. You can't build any momentum, and every single loss is catastrophic. And you can't build a football club back to where it needs to be if you're continually on that pendulum. So this last 5 games has gone a long way. Probably being celebrated more than it should at the club of the size of Man United. But from where we're coming from, i.e. 15th, losing that Europa League final, the start to this season, heavy defeats to Brentford, heavy defeat to City, getting knocked out against Grimsby. So not a good start in all competitions in like the first 4 games in all comps. To where we are now has been needed. You can't say Man United are back. You can't say Man United have indefinitely turned a corner. I think you can just say that Manchester United have improved. I think by proxy, when you sign Premier League proven players like Cunha and Mbeumo, we're getting our rewards for that because you get instant impact. Essentially, we've signed 4 starters in the summer in Sesko, the keeper Sonny Lamons, and the 2 players I just mentioned in Cunha and Mbeumo respectively. And that has improved our squad. Sesko is in and out depending on the game because he's young and needs time. Sonny Lamons is a monumental upgrade on Andre Onana just by doing basics correct, just by claiming crosses, just by parrying a shot out of danger, just by kicking it long into good areas. Basic goalkeeping, but the bar was low. So he's bred an era of confidence. But as Amorim has kept saying in this recent upturn of form, which I actually do like, he's saying, people keep saying we've got better because the results have improved, but we are, like Jermaine just said, miles off where we want to be. There's work to do. Midfield's still a massive problem, etc.
Let's hear from Ruben Amorim after Matthias de Ligt's last-second equaliser at Spurs on Saturday. That was their unbeaten run extended to 5 games, as I mentioned, the longest run under Amorim. I wonder how the mood would have differed had they lost that game. But let's hear what he had to say to talkSPORT after the game.
It's really important because it's that feeling of not going home with a losing feeling that is really important. But again, my players need to understand that we lose 2 points. The feeling in the end is different, but in my head we lost 2 points, like we lost 2 points against Nottingham. So we need to win. The next game is going to be in our home, and we need to. Today we had a different energy if you compare against Nottingham, but it's not enough.
Okay.
We need to have a different energy.
Things change very quickly. Before this unbeaten run, Manchester United lost 3-1 at Brentford at the end of September, and it felt like the writing was on the wall. It was just like, how long can this go on? And what we've seen over the last 5 games, I don't think has actually personally changed my mind over whether Ruben Amorim should be the Manchester United manager. But what I'm seeing is, especially after the comments of Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying that he needs some time to show that he's going to be a great manager and we have a plan. Jason Wilcox has come out as well. Essentially, the sporting director has come out recently to say there's a plan, there's a strategy, Ruben Amorim's part of it. What I see now in United is actually a manager who might take them a level up, but isn't going to worry the best teams in the Premier League over the next 3 or 4 years. I don't see it. Unless we see a bigger body of evidence. I mean, even the last 5 games, But
that's what it's about. I think what's difficult as a United fan, right? And I've been there, right? Because I was saying this the other day on a podcast that like we actually do need to keep calm, but it's really difficult to do that because we're looking for answers and we're looking for validity, and we're looking for instant like we're okay, we're on the right path, and that's really difficult to do when you're losing so many games. That's why now for me, I'm on like the real short-term goals. The short-term goals, forget getting back to the top just for a moment. Man United needed to stabilise and win some football matches. That's it. Forget tactics, forget this, that and the other and Ruben's principles and just where we were, you just got to win some football matches. And it's already brought some calm.
How good a manager is Ruben Amorim?
He's an okay manager. I'm not going to say he's in the top 5 in the league. I think, yeah, he may take Man United or improve them, in this season and maybe next season. But that's all it's going to be, unless you get better players. You're not going to see this same team in 2 or 3 years all of a sudden challenging.
No, it won't look like this team. It won't.
It
won't.
He can only do so much. If you've got a certain players in your team that can only go to a certain bar of ability, it doesn't matter what kind of tactics you've got or what you implement to make formations or whatnot. If you haven't got the players to challenge Arsenal, to challenge Man City, it doesn't matter who you have in the tunnel. It doesn't matter who you have in the dugout, barking you orders. Yeah, you can do well with a good manager, but until you start bringing in better players, like you started from the top, you start with Kuna and Wemo, that's a great selection. Now you've got a decent keeper in, that's a good start. Now you need top midfielders. Yeah, you've got one Bruno, but you need a different style of player. Defensive midfielder with legs. Defensively, you need top defenders. I wouldn't say Harry Maguire, Yori Leno, and De Ligt are top of the top defenders to challenge, top teams of the Premier League.
Stepping stones. It is about stepping stones. Like, to build a team that's worthy of getting to title challenges. I hate to use the lazy Arsenal comparison, but like, they didn't start by getting the players that they've got now. They've got to this point by continually.
It's a 5-year process.
Do you see what I'm saying? And I haven't been the most patient. I've been there, angry. I've been negative with you. I've been there, but I have taken a step back at times and gone, do you know what? You do have to have stepping stone players to get you to be a competitive team again. First off, and then again, like we were discussing, then you go, right, you need better than Dorgu and Dalot. You need better than Casemiro. You need, if what's going to happen with Bruno, is he going to leave? You need better options off the... What's happening now, actually, is, mate, as soon as Casemiro leaves the pitch, the drop-off to, like, Ugarte or Kobe can't even get... We've got nothing in midfield. Nothing. There's no control over games. So right now, I think we're just better just because we bought better individuals at this time, and then the confidence is coming in. I think the hierarchy do know and are aware, hence the links to people like Elliot Anderson now or Wharton. Those are the next step of like, right, how are you going to fix the midfield? The same way they ripped out the attack in the summer, because our biggest thing was we conceded about the same amount of goals as everybody else, 50 odd, but the goals we conceded, it was only Everton who scored less than us out of the 3 teams who went down. Shocking. So they just put a whole new attack in. That surgery will be on the midfield in the summer.
Okay, plenty for us to discuss this hour when it comes to Manchester United. If you've got a view on Ruben Amorim and his future, give us a call, 03717 22 3344. We're going to hear from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We'll also hear from Dimitar Berbatov, former United striker, after the break. You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18+, gambleaware.org. We'll discuss Ruben Amorim on his 1-year anniversary as Manchester United manager and look ahead to what the future might hold. Stay with us. You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT. Hugh, Woozencroft with you, as is Jermaine Pennant and Flex. We're talking Manchester United. Ruben Amorim made it. He made it 1 year into the job. Our reflections on Ruben Amorim's time so far as Manchester United manager. You can drop us a text on 81089. I'll read out a few of those in a moment. First, though, let's get an odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Let's welcome Chris Wood to the show. Chris, we're talking about Manchester United and Ruben Amorim this hour. Any specials on those two teams? Well, United and their boss.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we've got obviously things have turned around for him a little bit. He was odds on to leave before the end of the season at one point, but he's 5-2 to leave before the end of this season now. I obviously there has been a bit of a change, but things can still go south pretty quickly. We've also we've priced up them to finish higher than Liverpool this season at 5-2, finish higher than City this season at 11-2, and looking ahead to the league next season, they're 20-1 to win the league next season, 14-1 to win the Europa League. that's all in with whether they qualify for it or not, and 100-1 to win the Champions League next season.
Interesting, very interesting indeed. Okay, Chris, thank you so much for being with us. That was a look at the latest odds with Ladbrokes, 18+, gambleaware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Little 14-1 on the Europa League. Looks
haven't
interesting. Yeah.
We'll be in the Champions League next year, mate. Don't need to.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about it anyway. A few of your texts coming in on 81089. This is from, I think it just says, United fan here. Of course I trust the process. We may have had a bad run, but if Liverpool trust their process, ours is definitely one to trust in. Amorim's players have been doing well. Slot gets his own players, and he's become Jurgen Flop. Collie says, when life gives you lemons, make Amrinade. Love it. And this one, no name on here. I don't know how anyone can give United negative feedback right now. This guy mustn't be watching matches. We've been looking better behind the ball, better defensively, better behind goal. Some people are stuck in last season. Okay, all right, we're going to discuss it all this hour. Let's hear from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, co-owner of Manchester United. Remember, he was talking to the Times podcast, The Business, a month ago. Here's what he had to say about Ruben Amorim's future.
We have to be patient. And, we have a long-term plan. It isn't a light switch. And, you can't run a club like Manchester United on knee-jerk reactions to some journalist who goes off on one. He needs to demonstrate that he's a great coach over 3 years.
So you give him 3 years?
Yeah, that's where I would be. Yeah.
Very interesting comments a month ago, which I disagreed with. I disagreed with him coming out and saying them. It didn't help, in my opinion. But since then, Man United's form has improved. So maybe the public vote of confidence is the reason for United's improved results. What do you think?
Maybe, but when those comments were said and they were put to Ruben, he said, they tell me this all the time in private. Like, it wasn't new news to him. So I don't feel like he got, well, he didn't. He told us he didn't get any extra reassurance by those words being public. He said it's nice, but the conversations I have with Jason and Omar, etc., and Sir Jim, they tell me I knew this already.
But it lifted the pressure on him at that time when results weren't going
Exactly,
well.
it puts pressure on him.
No, well, people were screaming for him to kind of be fired. A lot of people were.
Calm that down so that he's not. Yeah.
I'm not. The hierarchy clearly didn't want to get rid of him at that time, so it took a little bit of that pressure off.
I'm not going to say it was a turning point, but I think it had a huge factor on his future. The result at Anfield, beating Liverpool, was a massive statement, and I think had a great fight for his cause to keep him on. Would it have made a difference if they would have got beat 3 or 4-0? I think so.
It would have.
I think if they would have took a whooping and lost 3 or 4-0 like everyone ever expected. That would have knocked confidence. They would have maybe have lost the next couple of games on the back of that because they've been shot to bits. And I think then there would have been a different story coming out of Sir Jim Ratcliffe.
I wasn't incensed by what Sir Jim Ratcliffe said. I did push back on the narrative of like, you don't just give 3 years, you have to earn it. But let's be honest, guys. You all know this. You especially know this. It's a results game. Even in those same quotes, he goes on to say, but ultimately we're driven by results. Ruben Amorim saying, yeah, they've told me this, but he actually said, I don't really like this because it gives the idea that we have time. And we don't have time. We need to start winning matches now. And like Jermaine just said, if Man United went on to keep losing and losing and losing and losing, yeah, I want to give him 3 years. But he keeps losing football matches. He would lose his job. Yeah. So it's all dictated to by results.
When have you ever heard a chairman or owner come out and says, yeah, he's got 3 games? If he doesn't change, he's getting a sack.
Exactly.
You've never heard any owner come out and call out their manager unless you're Marinakis.
I think Darren McCann said Darren Ferguson needs to win at the weekend.
Okay. Well,
the odd few, but the
top Brady was in here saying, top Graham Potter, we're going to support him and this, that, and the other. He went on to keep losing. It's like, well, what I said 2 weeks ago don't stand. He has to leave.
What they say to the public and what's actually going on behind closed doors are 2 different things.
Well, let's find out what the public feel. Manchester United fans giving us a call on 03717 223344. The first is David. Good evening. David, do you trust the process?
Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Good evening, David.
I think we've spoken before about this subject, and we seem to disagree on Amorim because there's a lot of negativity surrounding the club at the moment, and there has been for a while. I just want to say about the Jim Ratcliffe interview. I genuinely think that was a stroke of genius from Ratcliffe, because it's funny how since he came out with that and he backed Amorim publicly, the players all of a sudden are starting to put in shifts all over the pitch. Whether that's because they now understand that throwing their toys out the pram, putting in mediocre performances, and being lapsadaisy on the pitch isn't going to get the manager sacked anymore, and they're going to get their own way. And we've seen this playing time in and time out over the last 10 years, certainly the last 5. So that's the one thing I wanted to say firstly, and I think it was a great move by Sir Jim. Amorim was getting pelted from absolutely everybody, even including fans, pundits, ex-players, everybody jumping on his back. We know now in football, there's no time. Nobody gets time in football anymore. But it's just the impatience is on a different level now. Let the man do his job. Now, we're talking about transfers, right? And I heard Jermaine, I think, believes talking about the midfield still got problems, the defence still has problems. Yes, Jermaine, it does. But, it doesn't take one transfer window to turn it all around. So where do you start? And I think Amorim started at the right place. It was at the top of the pitch, where we've got players now that are willing to press, willing to run back just as much as they're willing to run forward, not players like Marcus Rashford, who are born around the corner from Old Trafford, and after losing 3-0 at home to Manchester City and not running back and tracking back time after time, will go out partying after the game. So now we've got players who are willing to run, willing to play, and can score goals. Now that alone, it gives the players and the team confidence, which is what we can see based on the last few results. And bear in mind, we have started the season pretty well, apart from a couple of bad results against Brentford in Grimsby. I don't really want to mention the Grimsby game again.
Don't mention that again. Don't worry.
David, appreciate
Make
your
some good
call,
points.
getting us started. Did make some very good points indeed, and he's a positive Manchester United fan. So getting us off on the right foot. You can join us this hour, 03717 223344. Up next, we're going to continue to take your calls on Ruben Amorim and Manchester United. We'll hear from our boxing pundit, Gareth A. Davis, as well. He's been at the grand arrivals ahead of the rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. That's live on talkSPORT on Saturday. You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT. Hugh, Woozencroft, Flex and Jermaine Pennant are with you. And a reminder, this Saturday, the unmissable rematch between Ben and Eubank Jr. will take place live from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You can watch it live on Saturday. It is only on DAZN. So there you go. Listen, we're still talking about Manchester United. It's 1 year since Ruben Amorim officially took over as Manchester United boss. We're going to talk about things off the field in a moment and where Manchester United should be looking to finish first. So let's hear from the former Manchester United forward Cristiano Ronaldo, who spoke to Piers Morgan last week, said that Ruben Amorim is not going to do miracles at the club. Also, another ex-player, striker Dimitar Berbatov, gave his take to talkSPORT.
Ronaldo is coming from a mentality of winner all his professional career. Yeah. And I can back that up because for the 1 year that I used to play with him, you can I was seeing it like everybody else that he was preparing for something great. And this is what maybe United lost throughout the years because we didn't win the title since 2013, I think, last year of Sir Alex. We need to get that way of to feel the starvation that is there for the Premier League, get that back, and because of this, get the ambition of winning. And when you get all this, the miracles will come.
Great to hear from Dimitar Berbatov there, and interesting his reflections on Cristiano Ronaldo. Just when he said that phrase, preparing for greatness.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, do you know what? Across sport, not even just in football, right? Across sport, that is what the best teams are doing, right? They're not leaving any stone unturned when it comes to winning the big things, and maybe that's what Manchester United have done wrong over the past decade or so. Jermaine, I'll start with you. Just asking you, how far away do you think Manchester United are from generating that winning mentality?
Well, they can generate the winning mentality. It's all about no point winning, but you can't challenge to beat the top teams and challenge for the title. So they've got a winning mentality, but they still haven't got the consistency basis. They haven't got enough in the team in a depth to take it to the higher heights, to compete. And that's going to take, if you look at the price, I said 5 years. You need a good transfer window, and you can't get a full team in one transfer window. It's going to take a couple of seasons to get that transfer window and to get the right players in, until you are, or Man United, that force that they once were.
You mentioned the depth there, and then you said it a little bit earlier on, just questioning the quality at Manchester United. What does the club need to do in the transfer window, Flex, to achieve, I don't know, top four, what do you think they should be looking at this season?
Well, what I think we should be looking at this season as an objective, getting into some form of Europe, like whether that's top 6, top 5 would be amazing. Obviously Champions League spaces, but I think if you can get Europa League as a minimum, if it's conference, it's conference. You don't really want to be in that, but Manchester United need to be in Europe. So I would say Europa League, and with one game a week, with teams getting tired, teams having a lot of games, we got a lot of rest between games. Where we are now as well, you've got to be looking at Champions League / Europa League for me. But in terms of what they need, they have to fix the midfield now. It's beyond a joke at the minute. Like Casemiro, to be fair to him, has had a massive turnaround. Like every time he leaves the pitch, we concede goals. We're actually better with him playing, but he's not the answer. He's not the answer. I think putting Bruno Fernandes into central midfield, I think has hurt his game and overall hurt the team. He's just a good enough player that he's still going to put numbers on the board. He's still going to get goals and assists because I think he's just that good. But in terms of controlling games, scaring opposition midfields, getting combative in there, if you've got Casemiro and Bruno as your two, you'll win some football matches, yes, but you're not going to kick on to the top level. So you need to go and get 2 top central midfielders. Manchester United need more wing backs, in my opinion. You need 2 top left wing backs.
It's a long list.
It's a long list because this is what Jermaine's saying. This is why we're not there yet. This is why we've got a lot to do.
And that's not going to happen in one transfer
Absolutely
window.
not.
That's
but in the summer, we can. In the summer, this summer coming, January, I'd like to go and get central midfielder, but I understand to try and get one of the big 3 of Anderson, Wharton, or Balaby, you're not going to get that in January. So I get it. Maybe can you get a little Conor Gallagher on loan to run around or just help bolster. But this summer, they need to do exactly what they've done last summer, but in midfield. Go and give it surgery. Casemiro, I think, will probably leave. He's on big wages. Ugarte, surplus for me. So you go and get 2 proper midfielders. Kobbie Mainoo still can't get in. And then you need to get wing-backs and another centre-back, minimum.
A long way back.
Manchester
United in Europe.
Long way back. But progress has been made.
As we mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo not too long ago, I don't know if you saw the story today, Jermaine, that Ronaldo was asked whether the 2026 World Cup would be his last. He said, definitely yes. I'm going to be 41 years old. I think this is the moment for me in the big competition. So, as you would probably expect, it's going to be his last World Cup. But he's still scoring goals at international level. Do you think Manchester United got it wrong by letting him go?
Yes and no, because it's difficult. Because if you've got a player who doesn't want to really play for the manager, but you've also got a player who's got undoubtedly ability, is amazing and can score your goals. It's difficult. Which one do you put first? Do you put the team first, or do you put the individual? And I think Ten Hag obviously put Manchester United first and thought that with him in the team, it jeopardises the way we want to play because he doesn't give me what another player is going to give me. So I understand the decision why Ten Hag didn't play him, but at the same time, when you're struggling as they were to score goals, and you've got someone like Ronaldo, it's a bit of a waste and a shame to not even have that in your ranks.
He scored 18 goals in his Premier League goals. That's a great return. But the problem that you've got with someone like Ronaldo, of course, the emotion. So when we signed him, oh my God, the hysteria. I'm not going to lie. That debut the second debut against Newcastle, I was there. He scores 2 goals. I'm thinking mad things. I'm like, do you know what? I think we're actually going to win. I think we've got Varane, we've got Sancho, we've got Ronaldo. This is it. But that's just emotion, right?
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is that someone like Cristiano Ronaldo shouldn't be at Man United when it's going through such a torrid time.
Yeah.
He can't be around that. The standards are too low. He's not going to want to be there for the long haul. And if he's not the main guy who can just dictate everything, i.e. you got Erik Ten Hag trying to find his way, there's players there that are subpar, and there's a lot of problems there. Can't build your team around that.
I do think we would have had a more rapid change. we're talking about the number of players being changed and stuff like that. I think with a figure like Ronaldo in the changing room, Manchester United would have been more aggressive with the changes that they've made to the playing squad and probably getting rid of Erik ten Hag. All of those things would have happened, I think, with someone like Ronaldo. We've heard previous players, Roy Keane's and Wayne Rooney's, talk about going to see the manager, going to see the hierarchy, and basically,
and Ten Hag wasn't having that,
and basically saying this isn't good enough. Our standards need to be better, or I'm leaving.
Yeah,
and actually, Cristiano Ronaldo did the same thing second time around at Manchester United, and they went, "We can leave."
Yeah,
and actually, you kind of think, should they have been on his wavelength more than their own in the way things have panned out in the last couple of years?
I don't think they could have got. The problem is someone like Ronaldo in that dressing room is so overpowering. And I just don't think we were set up to have him again the second time. Emotionally, as fans, it's great. But actually, the structure, which was an absolute total mess, because it wasn't what it was now,
and that's
wasn't
why,
there.
But that's why
so it was never going to work.
That's why I think the influence of Ronaldo might have been good. Because actually some of the...
If they listened to him.
Some of the figures at the football club weren't aggressive in a manner that I think...
Murto, Richard Arnold and that, Edward would probably still... joke.
Do you know how difficult that must be for him being in the Man United team? So successful, challenging for everything, and the juggernaut that they was, to then come back to then endure what he was doing under Ten Hag.
Let's very quickly hear from talkSPORT's chief football correspondent and Manchester United fan, of course, Alex Crook. He was on Inside Devils. He believes United will qualify for the Champions League.
There are so many leaders. Cunha is a leader. Did you watch the video that he put up of him sort of doing a tour of the training ground?
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it?
Just the way that his personality radiates. That United dressing room has been lacking that. I've spoken about Bruno Fernandes. What people might not like a lot of the stuff he does on the pitch, but certainly off the pitch, he is everything you want from a Manchester United captain. Maguire, with the way that he's sort of built his career back up again, has shown great leadership skills.
A lot of fighters.
Another. And I see Mbumo a little bit like that as well, to be fair. So, there's a lot more personality in that dressing room.
So, Crookie's house, understandably millennial grey, but he does have a portrait of Eric Cantona behind him, reminding us of better times. You can watch the latest episode of Inside Devils on the talkSPORT and talkSPORT Manchester United YouTube channels from 8 o'clock tonight. So, make sure you do check that one out. Very finally, on Manchester United, off the field, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Ineos Sport, the final word this hour, Flex, before you leave us. Have they done enough in the last year to take this club forward?
Jury's out.
Jason Wilcox?
Yeah, jury's out. Omar Barada, Christian Vivell. I think you see the teething problems when they first get there. You got like Sir Dave Brailsford and Jean-Claude Blanc all involved, and now these guys have stepped back. You had the Dan Ashworth debacle. So I think they've made mistakes, as you'd expect maybe a new hierarchy to do before they start to settle down. I think the beginning tenure wasn't great. Some of the decisions that they did, hanging on to Erik ten Hag for too long when they clearly admitted they didn't want him. They invested into him. So you didn't really have the strength of character to go forward with that. But I do take into account that what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's saying now, or well, actually what Jason Wilcox is saying now, but backed up by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, is that they didn't have all the pieces to the puzzle in situ last summer. And I can see the difference and the contrast between the summer we just had and the summer before. A lot more strategic this year, a lot better thought out, and a lot better executed than the summer before. So I take that into account. It's still up in the air, but I think it's beginning to settle down and go in the right direction. I'd say that.
Okay, Flex, been a pleasure to be with you for the last hour. I know you've had a very long day, been in the building since, 9:30 this morning?
Been here since 10 a.m.
So thank you very much for being with us for the first hour. We are, though, going to take your calls. We promised that we would, Manchester United fans. So give us a call on 03717 223344. Your views on the first year of Ruben Amorim straight after this. Yes, you're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT. This hour, well, it's the final international window of the year. Does Thomas Tuchel give some of his fringe players a chance to prove their worth in a competitive fixture, or is it all about fine-tuning his starting 11? We'll ask, should Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden come straight into start? And what about Adam Wharton? Is this his moment? Also, as Rob Edwards nears a move to Wolverhampton Wanderers, has he made the right choice to leave Middlesbrough, or should he have shown a loyalty that's rarely seen in the game? We'll discuss the Championship managerial merry-go-round with Swansea, Norwich and Southampton all searching for new managers. 03717 223344 if you want to join the conversation. Hugh Woozencroft with you alongside the former Liverpool winger Jermaine Pennant. We'll get his views on Arne Slot in the next hour. Reminder, over on talkSPORT 2 this evening, live Virtue Trophy football at level at the break, 1-1 between Stockport and Wigan, and Chelsea just underway in the Women's Champions League, goalless away at St Polton. We'll take your calls on Manchester United. Where are they currently and what are you feeling a year into Ruben Amorim's reign? Let's take your calls. Chris, a United fan, of course, has given us a call. Good evening.
Hello, guys. How are we?
Very well indeed. How are you feeling 1 year into your relationship with Ruben Amorim?
Yeah, I'm quite positive, to be fair. I think obviously the results on the pitch have been difficult from a year's perspective. But if you look at where the club was a year ago, not just from like Ten Hag and stuff, but the club was in an absolute shambles. We were getting rid of dinners and, like the guy said earlier, the players, a lot of them weren't fighting for the badge, but the leadership didn't have a clear, strategy. And I think over this past year, where they've made sort of certain additions to the board, and they, out of Dan Ashworth after that, we've developed a clear strategy, and you can see that from the transfer perspective. But also, you've seen the fruits of getting rid of the redundancies and all that sort of stuff, which is obviously a difficult decision to make. But you've seen a business make business decisions and make it streamlined. And I'm thinking now you're starting to see that on the pitch. And I like the guys earlier who said Amorim, like who Jim Ratcliffe come out and backed Amorim. You've seen the result after that. Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a massive addition to Amorim to hear that from public perspective, but it's definitely helped from a media and maybe some players' perspective. And I think you have to give them time. And we're so quick as football fans. Like this week, I've heard people want Eddie Howe out of Newcastle. I've heard people want Slot out of Liverpool, and I've also heard people, and I'm talking about their own fans. I've heard people want Man City Pep out last year when they had a difficult time. Like these football fans are so quick to jump on negative parts. Even our own football fans.
That wouldn't be the case at Manchester United, though.
It's the same. It's exactly the same.
No, it's not.
Like I've had loads of people.
It's not the same.
From United want them out, want him out.
Yeah, because he was terrible. You named some other managers that have been good, and it's ridiculous for their fans to want them out. But Ruben Amorim had Manchester United in relegation form until recently. The last 5 games are really the best stint he's had as a Manchester United manager. He hadn't won back-to-back games before then. So if you wanted him out, it was fair.
There's an argument for it.
There was a strong argument for it, not like the other managers you mentioned.
Yeah, you're not wrong at all, and I mean that in terms of at the point that these fans and people wanted these managers out of other clubs, their clubs were in good states. City, Liverpool, and Newcastle, they are well-run clubs, and at the point United haven't been. And I think now we give them a year. Now we give them a year. I know they're talking about 3 years, but I think from a fan's perspective, we need to continue to see. Look, as a fan, I've said all I want to see at the end of the season. I don't care about league tables or where we are. I want to see a style of play with an identity to know exactly what players are good enough to play for Man United. And I think over the past 10 years, we've not seen that because we've seen players down tools, we've seen a change in system, we've seen a change in like all these players coming in and out. I think now let's get a style of play, let's identify that, and then we can clearly see who's not good enough. And I think we're starting to see that with our United squad.
Well, I think there's been a style of play. He's got a way of playing football. He's got his formation. He hasn't got the players to play that formation.
Chris, appreciate your call, getting us started this evening, and make sure you do give us a call back. Really good, I think really good view that I agreed with, aside from the league table doesn't matter, because I think if they finish in the bottom half, he'll have to go.
Oh.
He would have to go, wouldn't he?
If he's not in the top half of the table, then there's going to be massive questions asked.
Let's speak to Ashley next. United fan, good evening.
Hi, lads. Thanks for having me on.
No,
Cheers,
thank
mate.
you. How are you feeling about Ruben Amorim? 1 year in, is it going the way that you anticipated?
Look at the last 5 games. I think we've discussed a few times this evening here. Shortly before then, we would have said no, that you can see fans starting to turn against Amorim. However, sticking with his ethos, which was felt a little bit scary for a period of time there, every manager could come out knowing exactly what he's going to do, how he's going to play, and change formation during games, which led to continued losses week in, week out. When he did come in, everyone's excited to have him on board. His style of football, his history with Sporting, good signs with his ethos. However, the consistency, spells were there, but not winning games, probably the worst we've actually had in some time under a manager, all the way through to the board. fans did stick with him. However, I could see that they started to turn. I think we did make some good signings. Seemingly, I do feel like we are turning a corner after this good spell of games just now. A lot to do still with regards to signing and strengthening positions, but what's important that I'm seeing or feeling is that the attitude inside the dressing room's changing. We were leading against Forest. We conceded two, rubbish goals shortly after starting the second half, and then going in and drawing that game. Same with Spurs, I think we actually were the most dominant team in both of those games, but despite lapsing concentration and conceding, it was about the resilience that we showed. Looking back historically, we go 2-1 down after leading the game. We've lost the game. We lose it 3-1, 4-1 at that stage. But look, we stuck with it. More importantly, we're grinding out the points, it seems now. Even when we do go down, that resilience and strength to crack on is just, it's important to me.
Okay, all right. Really good call. Thank you, Ashley. Let's squeeze one more in. Freddie, a Manchester United fan as well. Are you Amorim in?
Good evening, boys. Thanks for having me on. Yes, I'm Amorim in. I've been a season ticket holder for 10 years. I was at the game on Saturday, and I've watched Van Gaal, Mourinho, Ten Hag, and one thing Amorim does have on his side is age. He's just turned 40. I've watched these managers come in and it's negative. It's negative. Whereas, the signings of Cunha and Buemo, it's just given us a bit of, direction. And I think, you've just got to have faith. It's all good in today's modern game, asking for a manager after a couple of defeats. But, I think the players are behind him, and that's shown even though they've just been draws against Forest and Tottenham. And also the bottle on him to get rid of Garnacho and Rashford. They were obviously bringing in that toxic culture. I compared it with Arteta getting rid of Aubameyang, and I think they are the changes and the impact that I see anyway as positive signs that he's the man for the job.
Well, we're talking about 5 games there. It's not like we're talking about 15, 20 games.
How many? So that's how many games they need to have turned a corner in your eyes. 20 games.
What
solid performances?
Look, they could play Everton after international and lose, and then go on another losing streak. I think what we've saw so far is an improvement. I wouldn't say that because of 5 games in that all of a sudden they've turned the corner. There's still massive issues there within the club, and they've just literally got out Rashford, Anthony, who were awful for them, and brought in 2 better players. But there are still questions in the midfield. There's still questions at the back line. They went to Forest, who were struggling, who were in the relegation zone at one stage, and had to score late. They almost came off at Tottenham, almost lost that game, had to score late. So there is still...
Let me ask Freddie this, because actually I'll say this as a Manchester United fan. The peace that has come from 2 draws, and I mean it this way, when Manchester United won a few games, it was all Manchester United, the headlines were they're back and they've turned a corner and what can they do? Yeah. And obviously when Manchester United were losing, there were huge negative headlines about the manager needing to go. The last 2 weekends, I mean, you obviously want to win football matches as a fan, but the reaction to it on the Monday not being the major story and having time to breathe as a football club has probably been the biggest thing. I don't know how you feel.
Absolutely. Look, as they say, hated, adored, but never ignored. And that's something, United will always be in the headlines. But I agree with you. Look, I think second half we sat back. We should have continued, where we left off in the first half. But I think there was obviously some big games over the weekend as well, Liverpool, Man City. But yeah, it's nice not for us to be getting taken the mickey out of all the time. But I just go back to we've chopped and changed so much over 10 years that you've just got to, and as Ratcliffe said at the start that I heard of the show, they're giving him 3 years. So as fans, we've got to stand by him and back him. And
Freddie, let me ask you then: if he stays in charge, this is 1 year in, so another 2 years. What do you believe Ruben Amorim will achieve at United?
In 2 seasons' time, I think a consistent top 4 side. I'm not going to jump the gun and say he'll be challenging for titles, but if you look at Arteta and the development he's had, Jermaine, you said about players coming in, which is what Arteta's had. You look at the addition of Rice, Gabriel. So I see similar journeys really on managers that are very early on in their career. So yeah, 2 years' time, consistent top 4 and winning some trophies along the way.
Freddie, appreciate your call. Really interesting point there at the end. I don't know where other Manchester United fans feel. I agree with him. I think Ruben Amorim could get Manchester United to be a consistent Champions League side. but I don't believe he will ever be the title-winning Manchester United manager. Even with good recruitment, I don't feel the style of football, the system that he plays, the way he approaches games is going to win this league. This league, yeah. He's a good coach, and I think he can prove himself to be an even better coach in England, but I don't feel like, even with spending, even with decent recruitment, that his approach to games is going to win Manchester United a title.
No, I concur with you. I think I agree with that. I say, look, he may get them close. He may start challenging for top 4 positions. And it's Manchester United at the end of the day. They're a huge, massive club. They can draw in the top talent. So if they're willing to go out there and spend on the best players, they can attract the best players. They will get the best players. Manchester United. So over a couple of transfer windows, over 2 seasons, 4 windows, you can do a lot of work in those 4 windows. So they can be back challenging. But then, you look at Amorim, he's the manager to get over that line. Because people are questioning Arteta, second 3 times. Is he that man that can get over the line?
We shall see. One thing that, Man United fans pour a lot of money into that football club. Reports today that Manchester United don't want to sign anyone in January would be a little bit concerning. If the opportunity's there for Manchester United to get themselves back into the Champions League, if they're still hovering around the top 5 when we get to January, they need a midfielder at least. They need someone to bolster their midfield. That would be a huge error not to do that.
If there's someone available, there's no point going out there and buying stopgaps because that don't work. You can come the end of the season and next season it's not worked and you just spent 40, 50 million and wasted. If the right player is available, then they should do it.
Ivan Toney on loan, possibly from Saudi Arabia, 6 months. Would you?
Well, that's not the issue with Manchester United.
I know, but
you've got Sesko, you've got Cunha, you've got. Look, he's a good player. Go on loan. Why not? But that's not the answer. If
Sesko hasn't exactly hit the ground running.
Yeah, but look, if there's better options in better areas, then I think they should prioritise that than thinking about Ivan Toney.
Okay, all right. Let me just finish the conversation on Manchester United by reading out a few more of your text. Shake says Manchester United need to get Adam Wharton or Elliot Anderson either this winter or summer. The short-term solution should be playing Lisandro Martinez in midfield alongside Casemiro to push Bruno Fernandes forward and maybe play Cunha up front. David Marshall says a lot of Manchester United fans are entitled. They finished 15th last year. If they finish higher than 15th, it's an improvement. Even if they finish 5th, they won't accept it because they think they should be in the Champions League. Ryan says a couple of good results and Man United fans think they're winning the lot. You'll finish mid-table, then replace your dross players with more dross players as usual. Chill out. So I think that's the balance given there on the first hour of Manchester United. Thank you so much for those of you that got involved. You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18+. Make sure you check out gambleaware.org. Next up, we're going to hear exclusively from the England and Arsenal winger Bukayo Saka.